Logic Pro X has a dedicated track type used for virtual drummers. In this case, it's Southern California Kyle. With the control at the bottom, you can control how complex you could make it a softer performance, or loud. This is pretty cool, but I wanted to be able to do it with my own drum patterns. I want to have my own levels of patterns increase and be able to control them when recording for a performance. So this is how I did that. First, let's get rid of this performance, but we're going to keep the track itself. I think I want to increase the tempo a little bit. Now the first thing you do is you need to create MIDI tracks that will represent each pattern. So we do that by doing software instrument, select it, and then remove the default that's in there. Now we just have an empty MIDI track. I'm going to call it pattern 1. And let's duplicate this and create pattern 2. Going back to pattern 1, the key thing to remember is the default MIDI channel is set to all. For pattern 1, I'm going to set it to only channel 1. And the same logic for pattern 2, only channel 2. So now any MIDI that's on pattern 1 will only come out of channel 1, and the same case for number 2. Now we open up the MIDI environment. And we map what comes out of pattern 1 to Southern California Kyle, or the drummer. And the same thing, what comes out of pattern 2, we map to Kyle, or the drummer. Let's create 2 patterns to test this out. I'll start with the pattern 1. Nothing more fun than watching someone edit a pattern. That's a little bit there. Cool. Great. Nice, simple little pattern. Now I'm going to copy that down by holding down Option and dragging that pattern down. And I'll select it. It's, of course, just the same pattern, but now we're going to add a little change. Maybe a hi-hat. So what's happening is both patterns are feeding the drummer. You can almost hear the out of phase signal when the kick drum hits. Now what we'd like to do is put a script plugin on the drummer to control what channel gets through. So select the drummer, go over to your MIDI effects, and choose Scripter. Scripter is based on JavaScript. If you know JavaScript, this is a wonderful place to be able to create your own options. There's plenty of information online about this. The code for this project is online as well. If you look at the notes, you'll see the link where you can copy it. So we'll go there now. Visit the URL I listed. Click on Raw and copy all of the contents. Then in your script editor, paste the entire thing and click Run Script. Over here, you see we now have an interface to control 3 of the values that are used for this script. One is pattern, One lets us increase or decrease the velocity, which is really handy. And total patterns is used to limit how many patterns you can access. Because this will go up to 16, but if we only have 4, we want to limit only to 4. If we go to 5, then there'll be silence. So let's try this out. I'm going to close this window, move this up here, set total patterns to 2 because we have 2 patterns. Great, we hear the pattern. Now we hear pattern 2 with a hi-hat. And go back. What I'm going to do is pause the video and add some more patterns so we can really play with this. This is the fade up. Okay, I've added a few more patterns. These are very simple. If you spend some time with it and have more nuanced performances, this will actually be quite handy. But I put in what I did to demonstrate how this can work. This can also work for piano and bass as well. You could have variations on a chord pattern and slip in between it. So let's see what we have. I've got it on pattern 1. My velocity is at 10. My total patterns are 4. As I said, if it was 5 and I went to 5, there's nothing on 5, you would have silence. This is just to prevent you from doing that. I set up my tracks. Each one is set to its own channel. So this is MIDI channel 1, 2, 3, and 4. You could double check that by going over to the pattern MIDI channel 4 right there. And then in my MIDI environment, I've patched each pattern to the drummer. So all of these are feeding into the drummer. Let's play. Pattern 1. It's fine to hit these buttons. You can also make this window wider. You could use sliders, but it would be much simpler just to map it to a controller. So I'll go up to my controller surfaces, click on pattern, and I'm going to move a knob on my controller. So it's now mapped, it learned which channel it was. I'll do the same for velocity. Great. Now let's try this where I'm using the controller to make my selections. So as this is mostly just a proof of concept, you could do an entire song with variations on the patterns. You could have your intro, verse, bridge, chorus with a different pattern for all of those, and then just embellish them as you go. For each channel, add more. That way you can make your selections as you're playing. You could also record your automation here for the performance you would like, or you could even use this in a live situation as people are playing. I hope this was useful. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, just leave them below. And thank you for watching.